Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching the press review segment in this edition of the Breakfast Show. And to take a look at the major headlines in the Egyptian dailies and to give their comments and to analyze them, we're most delighted to be having in the studio Mr. Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub. He's a former Minister of Commercial. First of all, good morning, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, sir.
And dear viewers, we start today's press review from الأهم newspaper, where we read President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi discussed Egypt's security and economic challenges with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry earlier Wednesday in Cairo. Presidency spokesperson Ayoub Yusuf said that the two officials talked about how to increase bilateral cooperation between the countries and discussed the latest developments in the civil conflicts in Libya and Syria. Dear viewers, we have a report, and we're going to be airing a report about this maybe later. But first of all, sir, I would like to have your comment about this meeting of the U.S. top diplomat John Kerry with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and this comes, of course, after the historic visit of President Francois Hollande to Egypt.
You see, the President, the Secretary of State of the United States, John Kerry, is coming right after, at the heels of the visit of the French President and some other presidents, the monarch of Saudi Arabia, the German delegation. This means that the United States is keen to have its right place as far as Egyptian foreign policy is concerned. That is not to be sidelined in any way. This is one thing. Other thing is that he is going to the Gulf area. The Gulf area is of vital importance to both Egypt and the United States together. Mm-hmm. So there are many common interests between the states and Egypt as far as the stability and peace in the Middle East, especially in the Gulf area. Mm-hmm. And this is something very important. Third point is that the relations between the United States and Egypt was at a bit at tension at there was some tensions at some places, at some phases at last year. Now it is coming back to the conclusion that it is better for the U.S. as the same as for Egypt to have better understanding and stronger relations, whether from economic or political or military point of view.
Yes, and moving on to أخبار اليوم, where we read an overwhelming majority of Egyptian parliamentarians voted on Wednesday in favor of giving confidence to Prime Minister Sharif Ismail's cabinet. Ismail presented in March the policy statement of his cabinet in a 205-page report. Ismail said Egypt still faces great dangers that pose a threat to its national security, coming not only from countries around us like Libya, Palestine, Sudan, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, but also from within in the form of terrorist attacks and extremist thoughts. Dear viewers, we're going to be taking a look at this report, and we'll be back to resume the press review in this edition of The Breakfast Show. Stay tuned.
The government of Prime Minister Sharif Ismail gained a vote of confidence in Parliament on Wednesday, with 433 MPs voting in favor, according to an electronic tally. After a marathon of debates between 10 and 20 April, Egypt's government got its first vote of confidence in Parliament, with Prime Minister Sharif Ismail saying afterwards that Egypt is still in a state of danger and all state institutions and citizens should join forces to stand up to the challenges. The vote of confidence was reached with 433 MPs voting in favor, according to an electronic tally. Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel Al said the vote goes in line with the Constitution and represents a new democratic step. In a 10-minute speech ahead of the vote on Wednesday, Prime Minister Sharif Ismail addressed a wide array of domestic issues and challenges. He also said that his government intends to reform the country's subsidy policy to make sure the subsidies goes to those who deserve them only. Commenting on a report prepared by a special committee on his government's policy statement, which was delivered before Parliament on 27th of March, Ismail said his cabinet will take the recommendations listed by this report as obligations. He added that all state institutions should work in collaboration with each other so that Egypt can stand up to the challenges shared. According to Ismail, his government's biggest challenge is achieving economic reform and social justice at the same time. Ismail said that while his government is aiming to achieve an annual economic growth rate of 5.2%, it will not let poor classes suffer.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Dr. Ayoub, your comments on the performance of the Egyptian government since it has sworn in, and also your comments on the decision by the Egyptian parliament to give confidence to the Egyptian cabinet.
It is noteworthy that the overwhelming majority of members of parliament has approved the roadmap by Premier or Prime Minister Sharif Ismail, and this something which means that the government now is backed by the parliament. And if we look to what the parliamentarians said in a comment, this means that there are many eyes looking to how will he implement the ambitious plans, how will he finance it, and the time range in which he will be able to to implement this, let us say, a really ambitious plan as far as economy is concerned, as far as security is concerned, as far as our foreign policy is concerned, and also there are sectors of industry, and most notably education and health. There are challenges ahead, and I think that the government is beginning to work on it from day one.
Mm-hmm. Moving on now to أخبار اليوم, where we read President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with the Interior Minister General Magdi Abdel Ghaffar and his aides on Wednesday after a low-ranking policeman shot dead a street vendor in a dispute in New Cairo on Tuesday. According to presidency spokesman Ambassador Ala Youssef, said that the Sisi stressed the importance of holding accountable those who commit wrongdoings, whether policemen or citizens, and prosecute them according to the law. Sad and a tragic incident, sir. And your comment on the reaction of the government as soon as this tragic incident happened in the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and giving directives to the Interior Minister.
The government is very sensitive as far as in the internal security, local security is concerned. When the president himself calls the Minister of Interior to see about this incident, which may be a very, very, very small incident, but still they are very sensitive. The president is sensitive as far as the security is concerned, and the human rights of the individuals and citizens are concerned, and there are more than one organization now looking in the matter, and the president is keen that there is security, but also there are human rights and civil rights for the people. Everything should be put in place so that there are no exaggerations from any, many.
And the president indeed stressed that whoever violates the law, whether policemen or citizens, must be held accountable and responsible for any wrongdoing.
That is put everything in its right place so that it will not be manipulated by some political forces who are trying to find some mistakes here or there.
Yes. Dear viewers, moving on to Al Masri Al-Yawm and the extensive efforts by the Egyptian presidency to boost and to have a major shift in the foreign policy. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Thursday will receive Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, at the Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace in Cairo. The two leaders will address bilateral ties between Egypt and the Emirates. They will discuss regional issues within the Middle East, including efforts to combat terrorism, the situation in Libya, Syria, and Yemen, as well as the matter of the Palestinian people and Palestine. Sir, as I noted, consecutive meetings and extensive efforts to have a different or a major shift in the foreign policy?
This is a mobile diplomacy whereby the president is traveling overseas and the receiving monarchs and presidents of other countries. This means that Egypt is regaining its pivotal role in the Middle East as one of the major powers in this area of the world. And something very important, that the Russian president, the French president, the German Chancellor, and now the United Arab Emirates, and before that the Saudi Arabian monarch have been here. Egypt is regaining its role as a player, major player, to stabilize the situation and promote peace. We are not about war, but it is about peace in the area. But at the same time, security is one very important component of our diplomacy as far as Western frontiers or south or north or east. We are keen to stabilize the situation in Egypt first, because we are influenced by what happens in Syria, in Libya, in other parts of the Arab world.
Yes. From الأهم newspaper, we read Egypt's foreign ministry rejected on Wednesday statements made by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon a day earlier over Egypt's investigation into the alleged foreign funding of NGOs in the country. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ahmed Abu Zaid said Egypt rejected any statements that aim to interfere with the Egyptian judiciary, especially with the statements being made hours before the court session. On Tuesday, the UN issued a press release saying that Ban Ki-moon was following closely judicial proceedings in Egypt against a number of civil society organizations and human rights defenders. Sir, do you believe that there is a foreign plot against Egypt aimed at tarnishing the image of Egypt in front of the international community in regards or in relation to the human rights violations and the status of Egypt in regards to the human rights situation?
This is what we are seeing on the ground. In many instances, we see that the NGOs are used or manipulated by foreign powers. When I say foreign powers, I mean the financiers. They are not working for the civil rights per se, but rather to implement political motives by their financiers in other countries. We have our judiciary, we have our law, we implement it within our territory, and we cannot accept this kind of interference. In many cases, it is misinformed and ill-guided. It is not well guided, because they to know all, to forgive all. They don't know all the facts. I think that the first thing to be done is to ask, and after they get the reply, official reply, and we have the sources, after that they can judge. But judging according to one report by this or that NGO, that is not to the advantage of...
And what would you comment on the allegations saying that there is interference from the executive powers or from whoever in the judicial decisions being made?
When the decision is against some malpractice by this or that person, they say there is interference. But where there is not such punitive action taken, they don't speak about it. What happens is that in many cases, the foreign, I say, fingers are playing in the internal, in domestic affairs, and they don't want to be punished, but they will be punished because it is not easy to accept any kind of manipulation in the internal security of Egypt.
Yes.
Let this be clear.
Yes. Moving on to الأهم newspaper, where we read to another banner in the Ahram newspaper, Osama Hekel, a leading member of the parliamentary bloc support Egypt and chairman of the Egyptian media production city, told reporters Wednesday that MPs who wish to run for the leading posts in Parliament's 25 committees will be allowed to register their names next Saturday. Hekel indicated that the election of the 25 parliamentary committees comes after Parliament's internal bylaws were signed into law by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Egypt's Parliament is composed of 596 MPs, with around 40% affiliated with political parties and 60% independents. Sir, how important do you see these these elections or the posts to head the parliamentary committees, and also your expectations after the president had approved the bylaws that were passed by the parliamentarians.
The third step of our roadmap is now complete with the completion of these parliamentarian committees, and we are very keen that the parliament plays its role in overseeing the government policies and practices, not only in economic and political field, but also in domestic security and other areas. Something very important is that the media was manipulated at some stage to not to oversee, but rather to criticize anything which is done by this government, which is unfair because in many cases it is ill-informed, and we have to see that these parliamentarians should play their role, their right role, not for their own interests or for the interests of their localities, but rather for the public interests of the country to implement the roadmap. The third step was taken now, and we have to proceed to our economic development and implementing our 17 sustainable development goals, which is the cornerstone of our the plan of the government plan, to which you have spoke about a couple of minutes ago.
Yes, sir, allow me to move on to some economic news. And,
yes, please.
From Al-Wafd newspaper, Egypt stocks ended a wave of gains on Wednesday as local and non-Arab foreign investors tended to be net sellers during the session. The stock market's benchmark EGX 30 was down 0.82% to register 7,799 points. The daily turnover registered some 986.3 million. Sir, the Egyptian stock market saw gains, and this is, of course, a positive indication for Egypt's battered economy.
The stock market is the barometer of the economic activity and confidence of the investors or would-be investors. This rise, it goes up and down, but as far as we have seen for the last couple of weeks, I will not say couple of months, developments as far as economic front is concerned are positive ones. There are gas discoveries in...
But we have a major challenge, which is the foreign currency. This is a major concern for many Egyptians, that one of the main challenges facing the cabinet to stabilize the Egyptian pound against the US dollar and, of course, the euro.
In many cases, you find that the Central Bank of Egypt has tried to stabilize the price of dollar, but the price of dollar cannot be stabilized by decrease. It is stabilized by the market forces. We have to accept the fact that the tourism is not very well, the exports are not performing as expected, and the receipts from the Egyptians abroad are less than expected. Tourism is important factor, and the US dollar price in the Egyptian market now does not represent the potent powers in the economy, but rather something very provisional and very momentary. So we cannot depend on this to appreciate, to evaluate the economic performance of the government. It is the problem of the central bank, and it has to mend its fences with the investors and with the business community, because many factors are unable to find their needs of foreign currency because the central bank leaves them to buy from the local market and or call it parallel market or free market, and when the supply is less than demand, the prices must jump, and this is what we are seeing now.
Yes. Moving on to Al-Wafd newspaper, where we read Egypt's central bank governor denied any intention of officially devaluing the Egyptian pound on Wednesday after it hit a record low in the country's currency black market. Governor Tariq Ahmed blamed the exaggerated and unjustified rise in the exchange rate on speculation. Mohammed al-Bayad, the head of Egypt's Foreign Exchange Association, blamed the spike on aggressive speculation on the value of the dollar and widespread hoarding of the greenback among rumors of an impending devaluation. I believe, sir, this is exactly what you were talking about.
Yes, speculations by some persons. They are collecting the money, the dollars from the market, to sell it at a higher price. And so it is vicious circle. Once the central bank steps in to stabilize the market, as far as the demand side of it, I think that the price of dollar should get at a normal rate, not what the exaggerated rate which we are seeing now, about 11.2 something for the US dollar, which is extraordinary. And it should come back to the rate which is normal, about 10 or something like that. Mohammed Al-Abed, when he said that, he was sure, and he is working in the market, and he knows that many people are buying the dollar for hoarding and to sell it back. So it is a vicious circle of raising the price of dollar at this time, which is a critical time by the way.
We hope that this crisis will come to an end soon, and we really do thank you for your insight, Dr. Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, former Minister of Commercial. Thank you so much for your insight, and thank you so much for being with us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, and dear viewers, by this we wrap up the press review segment in this edition of Panorama News. Stay tuned, a lot more coming up on Nile TV International. We'll be back after this short break.